guys are the 2025 national champions. And Jack, how you feeling about it?
Yeah, it's Ohio State's show today, and rightfully so. You talk about the national champions, not the runners-up. So I'm excited to talk some Bucks, I guess, a little bit. But don't get me wrong, prompt me on any topic, and I will give you a nice little 5-minute rant about my Irish. But I would say, just opening, I'm happy with the season. I think that's the biggest thing. That was the closest national championship game since 2018. So I think that kind of rids you of the Notre Dame doesn't belong talk a little bit, and it just felt a lot like the Browns, the Flacco years that I guess now 2 years ago technically, where you just get so far and then the injury bug catches up. You lose. I think both of them were down 7 starters by the time they lost to end the year, and back to the drawing board.
Just realized my mic was muted during that intro, so let me do that again. OH, Nick, take it away.
Ohio
State
I figured
wins, baby.
I thought your mic was muted.
Yeah.
I was like, why does it sound like Ryan is like 1,000 yards away from the microphone? But
No, I'm currently present.
good morning, Buckeye fans. Good morning, Jack. Good morning, Ryan. My 2 favorite Ohio State haters. Winning championships is fun, man. It's something that we should do more often in this great, great state of Ohio. Obviously, it was weird a little bit for me because, an Ohio State national championship doesn't have the same feeling as, when the Cavs won the 2016 championship. It won't have the same feelings as when the Browns eventually win a Super Bowl, when the Guardians win a World Series in my lifetime. But, I mean, I say we do this all over again in mid-June. I'm ready for another 1.3 million people to pack the streets of Cleveland, especially on an arctically cold day like today, where I couldn't even get my dog to go outside this morning. Feels great to be a national champion. Jack, I'm sorry about the end of the season for the Fighting Irish. It was a good game. It was closer than what you predicted it to be on the show yesterday.
100%.
And really, I thought that there was a chance that Ryan Day was going to go full choke job mode there at the end. So,
yeah, well,
man.
The national championship stays in the Big Ten. They win 34-23. Will Howard almost a damn near perfect first half, and obviously scored on their first 5 possessions, Jack. It was looking like it was going to be a runaway, a blowout. Notre Dame found life in the second half. Some, whether you want to say questionable decisions with your guy Mitch Jeter going for that field goal that he ultimately missed. Yes, but Ohio State is champions. Jack, at least you can say you belonged on the field.
That's honestly the biggest thing right now as a Notre Dame fan, because so much of it has been for the last 20 years plus of my life that they didn't belong. They shouldn't be in these big games. They shouldn't get back in the playoffs because of all these blowouts. If Brian Kelly was coaching that game, Notre Dame loses 56-3, I believe would be the final score. So definitely happy about that. But I mean, I'm going to bring it back to Nick. If you remember correctly, when we went down to Ohio State, Michigan, we drove back together in my car and we listened to the Notre Dame USC game, which was the last game for Notre Dame at the time. And Nick, there was 2 things I told you about that car ride that I remember specifically. The first of which was that our kicker kicks at about 50%. And it's not that kid's, I don't want to come out for a kid. He's in college. He was an elite kicker at South Carolina the last couple of years. He had a bad groin injury at Notre Dame and was awful, to be honest. I mean, it's not the kid's fault, but how do you put him out? How do you put him out there in that? Why do you go 16-13? That's not going to do it. And it just calls into question the play calling on the 3 plays before it, because you have to get down there. You're not going to get it on 4th and 9. Kicking doesn't do jack squat for anyone. And then the other thing, Nick, we talked about in that car ride was that Notre Dame's corners have been a little shaky on the outside with Christian Gray, who's a great human being, and he's a pretty damn good cornerback for college football as well. But, man, on 3rd and 11, you have a chance to get them off the field and get the ball back to tie the game, and you run cover 0 against Jeremiah Smith, who, by the way, in case you didn't see this, Jeremiah Smith had 85 catches for 6,432 yards in the college football playoffs. And we decided to put our number 2 corner on him in cover 0 on the biggest play of the season. So not Mike Dembrock, Al Golden, congratulations on that one, the defensive coordinator. Have fun with the Cincinnati Bengals next year. Maybe Shadur will be able to buzz down the field on you.
Yeah. It seems like that's the move. Now he's going to be headed to the Bengals. I know, Jack, we talked about yesterday, that was kind of like the worst kept secret anywhere. And then the second the clock hit 000, Adam Schefter and Ian Rappaport start tweeting about it. Yeah, that decision, that poor Mitch Jeter, I mean, that poor kid. Like, you have one job. It was 28-yard field goal. Like, you could literally kick that in with your big toe. And I mean, he just completely shanked it. And that was kind of like Notre Dame's last grasp, it felt like, at mounting a comeback. Because that game, like I said, man, it got close. Like, there were thoughts that were definitely creeping into my head. Like, am I going to have to tweet out this Photoshop edit of Coach Prime in the Ohio State gear again? Like, is this happening actually? Like, is Ryan Day about to choke this game away? But Ohio State finishes it off, national champs, kind of showers away the stench of that Michigan loss. He gets to dunk on Lou Holtz one last time on the way out, especially the way that they won that game, with the big runs by Judkins and Henderson and even Will Howard. Like, hey, Lou Holtz wanted to call Ohio State not a physical enough team. They looked pretty physical to me. So Ryan Day definitely got to have his day. And I guess it was cool to see. He's got to beat Michigan next year. That chatter is somehow still quietly out there. He's got to beat Michigan, but it was cool to see that everybody said, like, national championship or bust, national championship or bust. Well, hey, he won the national championship, so there's not a whole lot that people could say now.
I am really curious, though, for all of the Ohio State fans who decided to call the season after the Michigan game, Ryan Day's fired, I'm not going to watch the playoffs. I mean, this is blah, 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 blah. Where are those people at right now?
You can't level with Ohio State fans.
No, you
I'm
can't.
telling you. And it's no shade. I get it. They're addicted to winning, as you should be, a winning historic program. But yeah,
totally.
To even be thinking about Michigan, I mean, how thin-brained do you have to be? You just won on the greatest stage in college football. And damn the second half. That first half demonstrated the talent gap between Notre Dame and why people thought that this could be a blowout. And you saw just how well the offense was moving. I mentioned Will Howard's amazing first half, 13 straight completions. That's a playoff record. Outside of Riley Leonard's first drive in the first half, nothing on offense for Notre Dame. Nothing. They ran Riley Leonard up the middle, 18? Actually, so it was really 9 times. By the way, that was the 17th rushing touchdown of the season. That's a school record. But outside of that, they stepped on the gas early, and you could see in Riley Leonard's face, that was foreshadowing the offense. They completely stalled out.
Yeah, it was such a weird game the way it went, where I would actually argue that I thought Riley Leonard had a great second half, arguably his best second half throwing the ball at Notre Dame. But you have to find a way to get the ball to your best players. And I understand you're in a position where you could not stop their defense, and there's only a finite amount of things you can do. You can't drain the clock and have 10-minute drives down by 14. I get that. But Jeremiah Love is what got you to the playoffs. He's the guy who got you going. There's no excuse for him having 3 carries in this game. That makes zero sense to me. And even further, while we're on this topic of Notre Dame last night, can we go to that fake punt for a second? Do you guys mind?
Please.
So Notre Dame fake punting all year long. They were I think Notre Dame converted on 2 or 3 fake punts / fake field goal attempts throughout the season, and they had 2 more called back by like illegal shifts or something like that clearly worked. The reason that worked all season long was that Tyler Buckner, who formerly was a quarterback, went to Alabama, came back to Notre Dame. He wears number 26, which is the same number as Chris Salerno, who is the backup punter and holder. That's why it worked out. If I was sitting on my phone down 31-7 or 28-7, texting out congrats to Nick and my Ohio State friends, and I was able to look up and see that the backup quarterback, Steve Angeli, number 18, was in the game while not even paying attention, I've got a pretty good feeling that Ohio State figured that out too. Well, dumbasses.
Jack, I'm sorry for your loss, but listen, it happens. That's Ryan Day now is the 5th head coach in Ohio State's program history to win a national title with the team. Paul Brown had won their first one. Woody Hayes, of course, had 5. Tressel Urban had 1 as well. Ryan Day is 70-10 at Ohio State. That's an 87.5% winning clip. That's second of among all coaches in history, just behind Walter Camp, who did it at Yale at Stanford at a 90.7% clip. And what a 2-month change from the chatter, the narrative around Ryan Day. Nick, you mentioned it. I mean, nobody has to feel like the world has come off their shoulders more than Ryan Day. Ross Bjork came out before the playoffs and said he was safe. Who knows if that was real? I'm sure it was, but that's, of course, something you're going to say as your head coach goes into the most pivotal stretch of games in his career. But I think it's easy to say that this was the most dominant, hard, well-fought, earned playoff run in college football history. Obviously, the Buckeyes won when it flipped to 4 teams in 2014. Now they win the first year, it flips to 12. Now we're going to be waiting. I'm telling you, eventually it's going to be March Madness style, 64 teams in the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the gauntlet of teams that they had to go against, Tennessee, Oregon, Texas, like, it was the who's who of the college football playoff. Like, so many teams got Indiana. Like, what a joke was that? Penn State, Boise State, like all those, the Arizona State, all those teams that kind of didn't belong. Like Ohio State didn't have the luxury of the bye because of the screw up against Michigan at the end of the season. And then to go through that gauntlet of teams that they had to get through to win the national championship, it makes today feel a lot sweeter, but it's honestly like what was expected. Like, had they lost to Notre Dame after all of that, like it would have been even more deflating this morning, especially after this is a $20 million roster that was the odds-on favorite to win the national championship at the start of the season. Like, you paid Caleb Downs. You've got all of these 5 stars littered throughout the roster. Like, it would have been a travesty if you had lost to Michigan and then somehow stubbed your toe again in the college football playoff. So all's well that ends well. It's the ending that Ohio State needed. So they had all the pressure in the world on them. And they got the job done.
Jack, I wanted to ask you, at any point in the game, obviously I'm referring to the second half, was there a point where you were like, holy shit, we might pull this off?
Honestly, no. In a way, that was the best way to lose as a fan. If you do have to lose a game, there's no good way to lose as a fan. But when you go down 31-7, you're out of it. Like, it's over. You have your time to process it. And then it was nice that you made it basically a 1-score game. There's a field goal with, a minute left or whatever. But you got it back to the point where it was very respectable. So in terms of losing as a fan, I'm not happy, but that's complacently, I guess it's okay.
You didn't get TCU'd.
And how many times did I tell you I was scared about getting TCU'd? 35, probably 40.
Yeah, you were. You were pretty adamant about it. And I thought in the first half, that's how it looked like it was going to go. I told Jack, I fell asleep at the end of the third quarter. I woke up and watched the whole fourth quarter, and I looked on my phone. I saw it was a close game. I'm like, wow, what happened? And yeah, if Ryan Day would have choked that away, I don't even know, the world would be on fire. Like, that would have been the funniest thing in the world. It is.
It is a lot like when the Guards play the Yankees or the Dodgers, kind of. Like, that is what it is at the end of the day, is you just don't have the natural talent pool to keep up with the other guys that you're competing against. Like Nick mentioned, how many 5-stars does Ohio State have on their roster? Like
all of them.
10 or 13, I think, is the actual number. And Notre Dame has 1, and he's a true freshman this year. Like, it's a different world trying to keep up with the Ohio States, for sure.
Yeah, and the argument of Ohio State's $20 million roster, like, shut up. You're Notre Dame, you're these big schools that can spend just as much money. This isn't the MLB, which we'll talk about, right? You're competitive. I don't care if they spent $30 million and they were the number 1 team in spending. Like, they earned that.
No,
and I'm saying that as a non-Buckeye fan. Like, that was a hard-earned victory.
Yeah, I don't have a word to say about it.
And I can't tell you how good I feel for Ryan Day and his family.
Totally, man.
Because I can't even imagine the stress put on that guy. Like, you see just in a 5-year span, the gray beard, the droopy eyes.
It's like being a president, kind
right,
of.
That's what it is, the before and after. And I can't think of a better guy than Ryan Day to be able to go get that. And his team rallied around him. It seemed like they never gave up on it. They always believed, even after that Michigan blunder, that they were going to pull it off, and they did.
And is this maybe, Nick, you could probably correct me if I'm wrong about this. Maybe I'm going to sound like an idiot. I believe Ryan Day's father passed away when he was younger in a tragic way, and he talked about how losing to Michigan over and over again was arguably harder than that. And it does feel like the release of 1,000 demons for that guy, probably. And I'm again, not happy, but if someone had to do it, he seems like a nice guy and he takes good care of his program. So
don't get it twisted, though. Come next year, if he loses to Michigan, he'll be on the first flight out, right?
We're back. Yeah, we're back to doing the Deion Sanders mock-ups. If he loses to Michigan again, I'm posting it again.
Which is just so mind-boggling to me, how you can be so wrapped up in this new age of college football where you can lose to Michigan and still go win the national championship. Like, how could you possibly be that just upset and like let it ruin such a magical playoff run?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it speaks to what the rivalry means. There's so many people that say that's the greatest rivalry in sports. And look at the last 2 it's crazy to think, as bad as Michigan was all year this year, the last 2 national champions are Michigan and Ohio State, and Michigan's dominated that rivalry. So Ohio State has to beat them next year. Like, that's going to be we've had Timmy Hall, Ryan. I know you know this on Big Play Cleveland so many times, and like every interview, like he finds a way to mention that Ohio State-Michigan game and next year's Ohio State-Michigan game. Like, it's something that people in Columbus think about 365 days out of the year is beating Michigan. So when you don't do it, even though you won the national championship, like it feels a little weird.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say, pump the damn brakes on Will Howard to the Browns, guys. I don't know if you saw that chatter on Twitter. Are we serious with ourselves? Your thoughts?
I'll let Nick go. I'll let Nick go first.
An idea to entertain?
I mean, I will take Will Howard to the Browns if I get that entire Ohio State offensive line, if I get Emeka Ibuka, if I get G. Scott at tight end backing up Njoku, if I get Jeremiah Smith as a 19-year-old rookie in the NFL, like then, okay, I'll listen to Will Howard to the Browns. But Will Howard with, Jack Conklin and
James
Elijah
Prochet.
Moore, yeah, I'm not so sure that that goes any better than Dorian Thompson-Robinson. And I think like that, all of that stuff will come to light in like pro days and the combine. Like there's a reason why there's an entire pre-draft process. Like I know he looks like a mobile quarterback in college. I wouldn't want to see him against the Ravens defensive line or TJ Watt,
Yeah, hard pass for me on Will Howard. No thanks. Well, Ohio State finally got it done with their guy, Ryan Day. The Chicago Bears hope they found their new guy that can get it done in Chicago with Caleb Williams. They obviously announced that they hired Ben Johnson as their head coach in Chicago. We'll talk about that and more when we come back here on The Big Factor. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to The Big Factor here on the Big Play Sports Network. Ryan Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Padone. We're brought to you today and every day, of course, by our great friends at Fairway Ford, Ohio. Fairway Ford is the biggest Ford truck dealership in Ohio. They have the largest selection of Ford F-150s and Super Duty trucks, and I can promise you that they will not be beat on price by any other Ford dealers. Don't let a short drive to Canfield, Ohio, prevent you from saving thousands. Yes, that's thousands on your new truck. Fairway Ford, the largest inventory of new Ford trucks, the lowest pricing, and the same hometown level of service. Visit fairwayfordohio.com, fairwayfordohio.com. Jack, before we move on, anything else you want to get off your chest about last night's game?
No,
if not, that's good, man.
It's their day, man, not our day.
All right, well, that's a very mature response from you. You've been mature about this whole thing, Jack.
That's not to say that it might come up later in the show if I get PTSD or a flashback. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I could go on for an hour, but no, this is a show taking place in Cleveland, Ohio. People don't want to hear about the losers all day long. Alrighty, well, we'll move on then. Chicago Bears announced they have named Ben Johnson as their new head coach, former OC in Detroit for the last 3 seasons. Ben Johnson in Detroit finished no worse than 5th in points per game and 4th in total net yards per game while he was calling the plays there in Chicago. I can't tell you how much I love this move for the Bears. You pair a young offensive play caller with Caleb Williams, and I think if you're taking the home run swing, this is what you do as the Bears, right? You finally get what you're, and this is, by the way, who Caleb Williams wanted as well. I think the right move was this. I understand you could have gone a Mike McCarthy route, maybe an established coach to start to build something, get the stink that was Matt Eberflus off. But I think in today's NFL, when you're seeing these superstar quarterbacks, you need a good play caller to pair with him. And I think Ben Johnson is that. Listen, if it does go bad, well, the well washes up. Well, you just go get a new head coach next year. I don't think that'll be the case. I love this move for Chicago. He was obviously the most wanted out of this coaching cycle. I think the Bears did a tremendous job with this hire. Yeah, get ready to clip this. It's an A-plus hire, Ben Johnson to the Bears, because that might turn out bad in a couple of years. But if you're Caleb, you're licking your chops about this for sure. Ben Johnson comes from Kevin Rogers' coaching school, who I believe is actually a Browns assistant right now, who had a bunch of high-powered, four-to-a-side offenses in college football, kind of like what the Bills do a lot now. In the NFL, he was a big factor with big factor, roll credits. He was a big factor with Donovan McNabb at Syracuse, Ron Powlus at Notre Dame. He comes from a guy who made a lot of decent quarterbacks look really good, and I think that's going to help Caleb a lot as well with Ben Johnson.
You guys are high on it. I'm not so sure. And I think that's just like it's the Chicago Bears. They've got a little bit of work to do. I know they had a good draft and they had a good free agency. Like they, shored up the offensive line a little bit. Obviously, Caleb Williams will help. This is a hire that you have to hit on. And we know it in Cleveland firsthand because we went through it not too long ago with Baker Mayfield, where when you have a young, promising quarterback, you kind of have to tailor the entire organization to him. I'm glad that this is the guy that Caleb Williams wanted. I know that it was also the best candidate out there. So all you could do is hire the guy. But now you need to be damn sure that this is going to work and make it work. That it's a forced marriage with him and new GM Ryan Poles, which is something that's never a layup. I hope it works out for Chicago because I do actually think that Caleb Williams has some skill. I know people love to hate him because he has like a pink phone case and he paints his nails sometimes, but I actually think there is a very good quarterback in there somewhere, and he just needs the right NFL offense and NFL system and support around him. And I hope Ben Johnson is the guy, but there's something about the Chicago Bears where you could just never be sure, especially in that division, which is very talented and a difficult place to play.
I think that's another reason why you go get Ben Johnson, actually. Listen, the Bears handed this kid the keys to Chicago before they even handed in the slip to pick him number one overall, right? Caleb Williams went out and he said he wanted Ben Johnson to be the new head coach there in Chicago. And I like I said, I love the move. If you have any semblance of being good in the next couple years, it's going to be because of Caleb Williams threw him on a cheap rookie deal where you can build talent around him. The pieces are already there on defense. He wants to bring in Dennis Allen as the DC and Darren Rizzi as a special teams coordinator, both from New Orleans. Obviously, Darren Rizzi took over there. I think that would fix the defense, fix the special teams. Not that it needed that much fixing, but you need a genius play caller, and you've seen that's what Ben Johnson is in Chicago. And in today's day and age, you need to be able to score 30 points to win games with the Chiefs, with the Bills, with the Ravens. And now you're going to be playing your old team in Detroit 2 times a year. They're going to be missing him while you bring him here to this staff in Chicago. I think it's the no-brainer. Could it go wrong? Yeah, sure it could. But is there anybody this coaching cycle where you're going to look a year from now and really be like, damn, we missed out on that guy? Maybe Mike Vrabel, but let's be real. He was going to the Patriots and nowhere else.
And also, was Jared Goff first or second overall? I forget. First overall. Not that he was bad by any means with the Rams, but that whole thing didn't work out. They went to the Super Bowl, laid an egg. He comes out to Detroit, meets Ben Johnson, and he's making a lot of money. He's got a supermodel wife now. So Jared Goff's living pretty well, and Ben Johnson has a good history with first overall picks.
Yeah, he does. Well, I wanted to ask you guys this, too. Do you think who will have more instant success, a better year next year? Mike Vrabel and the Patriots, Ben Johnson and the Bears. And I think the easy answer would be to say the Bears. They were better than the Patriots last year, really not by much, though. Better quarterback, you assume, in Caleb Williams, although Drake May made a claim that he could be better than Caleb Williams, and more pieces in Chicago as well.
I'm going to go with the Patriots, actually, on this one, and it's nothing about the actual teams and how they line up 11 on 11. It's more so that I think the NFC North is going to be awesome next year. The Packers are going to be good again. The Vikings are going to be good again. Who's the fourth team in that division? I can't think. Packers, Vikings. Bears.
Lions.
But and the Lions, they're going to be good again as well. They had won a bunch of games as well. Yeah, and the Patriots, look at their division. I mean, the Bills are going to be the Bills, don't get me wrong, but the Jets aren't trending in the right direction. The Dolphins are kind of stuck in a weird sand trap of being 8-8 or good or bad every single year. And Drake May had a great year last year, and I don't know. I mean, you get the sophomore slump sometimes, but he got more experience and had more success early on than Caleb.
I agree. And I think the Patriots can't really mess this up. They've got their quarterback. They've got their coach. You've got to, like, the fact that Drake May had the year that he had last year, name a Patriots receiver. They could do a lot of work to help that poor kid out a little bit more. And like you said, Jack, okay, a sophomore slump could happen, but he had an all right year. You get Mike Vrabel, who you believe is going to be your head coach in New England for a very long time, or else you don't make that move. You got Drake May. Now, all right, is when you have a little fun with it. You get some complementary pieces, some big name, whether it's a receiver or running back or offensive lineman, add a couple complementary pieces defensively, and the Patriots will be ready to roll. And you know for sure Vrabel is going to want to address that defense and find himself a pass rusher and all that good stuff. So I agree with Jack. I like the spot that the Patriots are just a smidge better than where the Bears are at. It's also just a more stable organization.
Yes, that's a big thing too.
That is a big thing. clip this. We're going to do 25 headlines in a little bit, but just a quick prediction as well. Cooper Kupp will be a New England Patriot next year.
Okay.
I can see that.
Book that.
I can see that.
Book that. They're not paying him $20 million a year. The Rams, that is.
Book it.
Well, other news, Aaron Glenn
Mark Andrews, too.
could be Mark Andrews. You're not wrong about that. I think they'd save like $11 million if they cut him. Aaron Glenn, it looks like either the Jets or the New Orleans Saints. I believe he met with the Jets earlier. His decision will probably, I assume, be made today. I would be shocked if he didn't get that headline there. I'm assuming he'll pick the Jets. I think he wants to bring in the staff with him. I understand you don't want to work with Woody Johnson, but maybe it's a more attractive job than the Saints, although I don't think it's by that much of a gap. But it looks like Detroit is for sure going to be losing both of their coordinators in this cycle. Not good news for them. I said if they were going to win it, it seemed like it needed to be this year. Future's still bright there, but boy, that NFC North could look a lot different next year.
Yeah, totally. And Aaron Glenn, I don't know a ton about the dude, to be honest. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I do, but man, looking at the Jets or the Saints in a post-Drew Brees world, he might be just going to a straight graveyard.
He played for the Jets.
Oh, did he play for the Jets? Oh, okay.
So yeah, there's definitely a connection there, and I think there's something to be said about the Jets job. Like, I mean, I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that Aaron Rodgers is done in a Jet uniform, so you get to be the guy that pulls the strings on. Okay, like Zach Wilson, that was a mess. Then they did what they had to do in the same way that the Browns did what they thought they had to do, and the Denver Broncos did what they had to do. They got a proven vet. Aaron Rodgers is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Bring him in. All right, now if you're Aaron Glenn, it's you and your staff that's going to get the next regime put together. You're going to get the next GM hired in New York. You're going to, draft or figure out your quarterback situation, your defense. Like, I think the leash is a lot longer in New York too, because they kind of understand like, hey, we've got to really figure this out, like from bare bones, because they fired everybody. So it is like a true kind of rebuild in New York. And I imagine they move on from Rodgers, which is going to be a little bit of a task to replace.
Yeah, and I feel like, in a way, I don't know if you guys were ever big into, like, rebuilding teams in Madden or 2K when you were a kid at all, but if you go on Reddit right now and look up Madden 26, hardest rebuilds in franchise mode, I think the Jets might be right up there.
It's interesting that they're going to go down the path, it seems, nothing's confirmed, that you fire Robert Saleh midseason, a defensive-minded coach. You go now to Aaron Glenn, of course, the defensive coordinator.
Another defensive coach,
Is that the shift that New York Jets are going to need? I understand you don't have a quarterback in place, so it's not like you can bring in a Ben Johnson and expect things to totally change. It is interesting, though, because it doesn't seem like Rodgers will be playing football there. I have no idea who in the hell will be their quarterback, guys. Absolutely no idea.
Is Tim Boyle still around?
Stop. Probably.
It seems like Robert Saleh could like quietly be a leader for the Jacksonville job.
Oh, really?
They're bringing him in for like they said he impressed in the first interview. They're bringing him in for a second interview. So that'd be big ups for Bobby Saleh.
John Gruden to the Jaguars is gonna feed families though. You know he just signed that long deal with Barstool. Yeah. You know he's not sticking around. There was rumors that he interviewed for the Raiders job, correct?
I don't know.
Really? I don't think so.
I'm pretty sure he did.
I know Pete Carroll did.
Yeah, I know Pete Carroll. Yeah, I think I think John Gruden did also. So maybe he's getting back into coaching.
All right. Well, I got a message for the Los Angeles Dodgers. I'm not very happy with them, Jack. I know you're not very happy.
I'm pissed.
Nobody's happy with them because they're ruining the best sport in the world. I know Jack agrees with me on that. We're going to talk about that and more when we come back here on The Big Factor. The Los Angeles Dodgers suck, Jack. This is getting ridiculous. They're now ruining the Major League Baseball, the greatest sport in the whole entire world, because they can spend whatever money they want. They're new after signing all-star reliever Tanner Scott to a 4-year, $72 million contract. Their luxury tax payroll is going to exceed $375 million. That's 70 more than the next team, the Phillies, at 308. Yankees are the only other team expected to exceed $300 million just this offseason, guys. Blake Snell, $182 million. Tanner Scott, $72 million. Teoscar Hernandez, $66 million. Blake Treinen, $22 million. Michael Conforto, $17 million. Extended Tommy Edman, $74 million. And, of course, the latest, Roki Sasaki, the Japanese superstar, to a $6.5 billion deal. I don't know how this gets fixed. It's frustrating to see, especially coming from like Guardians fans who have no possible realm of spending that type of money. And I don't know how it's going to get fixed. Something has to stop because this is going to become unwatchable at a point.
Yeah, I'm going to go on a long and winded rant that's probably going to go about 3 minutes too long here, so I apologize to both of you. Feel free to mute me at any time. Congrats, Rob. You ruined baseball. You killed America's pastime. There are 27 teams, so it's not even worth it to show up on opening day because you have zero chance to compete with the Dodgers, the Yankees, and the Phillies. They have 23 All-Stars on their roster. The Dodgers literally have 12 starting pitchers that would be our number 2 in Cleveland. It makes no sense. The deferred money is the dumbest thing of all time. Why are you adding deferred money into baseball? Whether it's a salary floor, you're not going to be able to do a cap because they already put out these contracts. It makes no sense, Rob. I mean, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes, dude. The next time the CBA comes around, they're not going to play baseball for 3 whole seasons because they're going to have to figure this shit out. It is so beyond past the point of being fixed that it's incomprehensible, to be quite frank. I don't understand how you can allow them to do this. And it's not that I don't think other teams can. I think owners cry poor a lot in baseball. I'm looking right at you, Paul Dolan and Bob Nutting, our good friends over at the Pirates. But there has to be a fix, right? You have to find something anyway. Is it a floor? I don't know, but you can't let a team go out and they have 20 All-Stars, right?
It's bullshit, Jack. Excuse me. It's bullshit is what it is. And like I said, it's ruining the sport. Like, you can't expect, I understand, the Guardians can play chess. They got the better front office. Okay, but money wins out. Like, when you get to the playoffs, how many times have we seen this play out again and again? When you get to the playoffs, it's the Juan Sotos, it's the Shohei Ohtanis, it's the Aaron Judges of the world that get you the ring. Guardians can't compete. And as fun as it is going to the ALCS, the ALDS, even the World Series like we did in 2016, it's all for nothing. You can't do anything against these superstar Monstars team. And Rob Manfred is the worst commissioner in the history of sports, and he's ruined the game that everybody loves.
It's 100%. Like, when you get to the ALCS last year, it's like, yeah, cool, whatever, and we kind of got our doors blown off by the Yankees. The Yankees went and got their doors blown off by the Dodgers before they added 15 more superstars to their roster. Like, there is actually no point in watching baseball this year if you are a fan of way more than a majority of the teams in the league.
You're going to have to go to FBS and other divisions. At this point, I'm so serious.
You
can't compete.
No, you can't.
You can't. It's so infuriating, Jack. And the worst part about it is there's no easy fix. You mentioned with the contracts, you can't just implement some magical salary cap to come out of the woodwork. It's completely broken, and until something gets fixed, I mean, we're going to be seeing the Dodgers and the Yankees in the next World Series for the next 6 years.
Do you want me to buy an MLB ballpark pass this year so I can go hope that Will Brennan can go out there and keep up with Teoscar Hernandez and whoever the Dodgers throw out in the outfield? I mean, we have no outfielders who can hit 20 home runs on our roster. They have 5.
Nick,
that's it's absolutely insane. And here's the scary part about it, right? Because like, we could all sit here and we could bitch and moan, especially because we're a small market team. Like, I'm sure talk shows in Pittsburgh and Cincinnati to an extent are doing the same exact thing this morning. Here's the scary part, and Jack hit on it. The next time they have to collectively bargain all of this, there is going to be a massive holdout. Because anytime Major League Baseball and the players have to sit in a room together and figure something out, it doesn't go well. Remember how, like, there was actual vitriol towards MLB, towards owners, and towards players during the pandemic, where we were just itching and scratching for anything to watch, anything to do, and they were arguing over, what do we play 10 more games or not? So imagine they couldn't get the season started over 10 or 12 more games during a global pandemic where there was hardly going to be any fans anyways. Imagine trying to figure this out where, okay, we're going to have to cap how much these owners are allowed to spend. Obviously, the big spending owners aren't going to like that. And then on top of it, they might have to institute a floor where you brokies that want to buy the house but can't afford the furniture to put in it are going to have to spend at least something so we can have some semblance of competition over the next decade. That bickering is going to take well over a year worth of holdouts. And this ultimately, and I hope this is like not true, because I, like you guys, really love baseball. Like, I'm probably not as into, all the prospects and the players on other teams and follow the league as a whole as closely as Jack. But like, it is America's pastime. There's no debating that. And it would be so tremendously sad if this is what sunk baseball after like all the improvements that they've tried to make to the game, the pitch clock, making it faster, appealing to younger fans, having like what the Guards have done at Progressive Field is phenomenal. We're able to go to a game and it's like an experience. You could watch the game, you could hang out with your friends. My girlfriend who likes baseball but doesn't really know what's going on goes and has a blast every single weekend. Like, the experience is so much better than what it was 10 years ago, but the TV ratings are what's going to drive this. And if nobody's tuning into the marquee matchups, if nobody's tuning into the playoffs, because it's just going to be the Shohei Ohtani Invitational and teams just trying and failing to take them down, that's what could really be what sinks this sport.
And Nick, I think you hit the nail on the head with it, because you look at the 1981 strike, you lost 3 months of the season. The 1994 strike, you cost the Guards a World Series and probably about 4 months of the end of the season. I have a hot take for you guys, and I want to get your thoughts. I know neither of you guys are hockey guys, but hockey, it's no secret, is the fourth sport, maybe even the fifth sport in America, and it has been for a real long time.
I think pickleball just took over.
It might have. That hurts to say. But if I'm the NHL, when it's warm outside in the summer, I mean, no one like Nick, you're not really a hockey guy, right? Nick, how are we going to convince you when it's 20 degrees outside, like right now? You want to go watch a hockey game where it's freezing inside?
Right.
No one's watching baseball. No one's going to watch this year because the Dodgers are going to go 155-7. The sports, there's no point in watching it. If I'm the NHL, I would so seriously consider moving to play during summer. People want to cool off a little bit, go inside, go indoors. You're never going to outrate the NBA. Even if the NBA ratings are down this year, there's still 85 times more than what hockey gets. You're never going to compete with football. Go to summer. I'm telling you, I'm imploring you to try and play your games in summer, because you might have a shot to take down baseball, because baseball might take down themselves.
And here's,
I mean, all these other sports are growing. Like, Jack, to that point, I know you're a big like Vegas Golden Knights fan. That's a new expansion franchise. Like, obviously, we've got the Seattle Kraken.
Yep.
Keep an eye on the MLS too. Like, soccer is the biggest. Yeah, soccer is the biggest sport in the world, and the MLS is finding creative ways to pluck some of the global superstars of the game and get them to play in America. And the MLS really is a joke when you look at like the grand scheme of soccer. And I'm not pretending to be some big soccer guy here, because I'm not, but I know that the MLS is like not that talented. But keep an eye on them too, because like that's a growing organization that could have that same eye kind of on baseball and baseball fans. Like, it's a 90, baseball fans complain that the game is long and boring. Soccer is 90 minutes. That clock just rolls and you get a little bit of mystery time at the end.
You have the Dodgers, who are spending billions upon billions of dollars, able to defer all this money. Meanwhile, you have a team like Oakland leaving an historic stadium, playing in a double-A stadium for the next 2 years while they get relocated to Vegas. And they'll tell you, you're the Guardians, you can't bitch and moan because, you went to an ALCS. Is that great? Yes, it is. And they do it just so often enough where you get content with the team, you get content a little bit with the spending, and the owners think that that's okay. Because let's call it for what it is. Outside of maybe LA, New York, looking at the Dolans, it's a hobby. As long as that line stays green, they're not in the red, they could give a shit about going to win and competing against the Dodgers.
And the thing that sucks is, for how good that Guardians team was last year and the incredible run they went on, I remember being a little kid and going, Dad, can we go watch Shin-Soo Choo and Asdrubal Cabrera play on those 70-win teams in the early 2010s? That team, at that point in time, was closer to winning a World Series than the Cleveland Guardians, who are probably a top 5 to 15 team in baseball right now, is at winning the World Series this year. There are all-star teams who are not as talented as the Los Angeles Dodgers in baseball history. I'm not being funny. There are legitimately handpicked 2 guys from every single team, their best players, the Dodgers would beat a lot of those teams in a 7-game series. And it's a friggin' joke.
It should quite literally be when you get to that All-Star break. No kidding. This would be more competitive. Honest to God, Jack, you're making a perfect point.
Dodgers
versus All-Stars. Dodgers versus All-Stars. This is getting to a point where there's no going back because of the contracts. There's no easy fix in sight, and baseball is in a horrible place. And you got to blame Rob Manfred.
You do. And here's my pitch for you, Paul Dolan. There's been rumors that you've been kind of moving on the way out. You might go on a Senate run here, it sounds like. There's a couple of minority owners who are interested in buying bigger portions of the team. Hey, Paul, if everyone else is deferring money, kicking $100 million 10 years down the road, why not go sign someone for, we'll give you $150 million in 2045 when I'm dead. Yeah.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, I don't know, dude. It's frustrating as Guardians fans because you get to the ultimate goal, almost the ALCS. You did in 2016, and that team was different. But a team like this season, you got there, it's nice, but you weren't competitive. Let's be real. You weren't beating the Yankees, and if you got to the World Series, you certainly weren't beating the Dodgers. You probably weren't winning a game against the Dodgers.
I don't think that 2016 team would have won a game against these Dodgers.
Probably not. I think that's a fair bet.
I mean, what was Josh Tomlin in Game 3 going to shut down Shohei Ohtani? I love the little cowboy, but I don't think so.
Well, we're going to move on. You got something?
That conversation bummed me the hell out. I'll be honest.
Yeah,
like, that was probably the most depressing conversation in the history of this show.
I mean,
because there's no and like not to keep drowning it out because I know Ryan's trying to get to break here. There is no easy fix because these contracts are 10 to 12 years long. Like long. You can't fix this issue for another decade at minimum.
We couldn't even re-sign Michael Brantley, who's one of the greatest players in our franchise history, to $8 million for another year. And there's teams out here who are given $40 a year. I'm sad.
I'm
over
sad
the
too.
Next 10 years. Yeah, over 40 a year over the next 10 years. Like, yeah, good luck competing with that.
Baseball is in a very dark sport. Hopefully, prediction, Paul Dolan sells the team and just gets David Blitzer in here next year so we can actually maybe go and for real compete instead of being jokes. We're going to take one more break. When we come back, we're predicting 2025 headlines, what's going to be in the paper, what's going to be all over First Take, Get Up, all that in 2025. We're each going to give you one and maybe a little bit more when we come back here on The Big Factor. Rob Manfred, you suck once again. Welcome back to The Big Factor. Ryan, Tyler, Jack O'Rourke, Nick Padone. For this last segment,
we're pulling out
our green seats. We're pulling out our crystal balls, making predictions for the biggest headlines of the year 2025. Before we go into this, I'll ask any volunteers, does anybody want to make their bold prediction for this year first on the show?
I can if need be.
Sure.
I'm going to go, I don't know the exact date here, so we're going to guess and say September 28th. Or no, we're going to go October 15th, the Monday after week 4 of the NFL season. The Cleveland Browns fire 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, Kevin Stefanski, after an 0-4 start.
Boo.
I love Kevin. I'm a huge Kevin guy, but we talked about it last week, I believe, Nick. He has an under 500 record. At a certain point, they're going to change something, man.
Yeah, I mean...
Oh, no.
Fair enough. I wonder in that scenario, I mean, who would you be just promoting?
Other than Trone.
Come on down.
Yeah, maybe. I hope that doesn't come true, man. I want things to work out for Kevin Stefanski.
I love Kevin, yeah.
So freaking much here in Cleveland. I think he's had to dealt with a lot of flack, he's had to go through a lot that he probably didn't have the decision to say in. Of course, Deshaun Watson being the biggest one there. I mean, but let's call it for what it is. He's been the best coach since he came back in '99, and you can't just replace that.
I agree, but they did to Bill Belichick one time, so I wouldn't be too shocked.
Hey, the Ravens did that. That wasn't the Browns. People forget the Ravens fired Belichick, not the Browns.
Is that the Hanford school of thinking?
No, I mean it's the actual school of thinking. The team was sold at that point. Like it was Modell fired Belichick. Like, hey, that's a Ravens problem, not a Browns problem. His history doesn't remember too kindly to that.
Well, I hope
that doesn't come true.
I hope
that
so too.
suck.
I love Kevin. Jimmy likes to do some crazy things. We found
This
out.
is a depressing ass show.
I got one that'll upbeat if you want. But do you want to go first, Nick? You want me to go?
No, go ahead.
All right. I would put so much money on what I'm about to say. I'm marking this down. January 21st, 2025. Here's what's going to happen. Kansas City will be the first team to three-peat in the Super Bowl. At the end of the game, Travis Kelce will propose to Taylor Swift. Now, I don't stop there because you might say, yeah, that could happen. A lot of people have predicted that. But here's where I go a deeper layer on this one. This whole stunt, when they finally get married, it's going to be televised nationally, whether Netflix picks this thing up, Taylor Swift buys a network, starts that, and that's the first premiere live event on that. I don't know who's going to buy it, but I'm telling you right now, it'll be a nationally televised wedding similar to like when they get married in England, the royalties. I'm telling you right now, that's going to happen.
Markle? Oh, yeah.
It's going to be a whole event. It's going to have the world capulated by it. They're going to be playing Taylor Swift's love songs all throughout leading up to that. You're going to see trailers, commercials, and it's going to make me sick to my stomach.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to be a hell of a day for garage beer, though. You got to think there's going to be some garage beers flown around at that wedding, so... Give me a good day.
Where does the wedding take place?
Where's Taylor Swift from? That's probably the best thing I can think of.
Nashville?
I'm assuming they're going to want to keep it domestic. I doubt they're going to go international.
What if they come to Cleveland?
No, they're not getting married in Cleveland, Jack.
It's a 1 in 2 chance. You go to where one of them are from.
She wouldn't even come to Cleveland for the game.
That is true. Well, it's also, they wouldn't get married in a shithole stadium, so that could be the difference maker.
I'm telling you, I really have a strong
I love that,
instinct
Ryan.
that this is going to happen. I thought about what I wanted to predict, and I wanted to take it a step further from the obvious if he proposes to her, which interesting theory I saw on Twitter. She was wearing gloves in the box. Nobody else was. Maybe she's hiding a ring. I don't know. But I really feel like that's going to happen. Nick, you want to round out the show giving us your prediction for the future headline in sports in the year 2025.
Alrighty, crystal ball prediction. Today is January 21st, 2025. I'm going to go ahead and predict that the Cavs do not win the NBA championship. They're the number 1 team in the NBA as we record this show right now. I'm going to predict that they do not win the NBA championship, but the heart of Cleveland is recaptured this summer when the King opts out of his player option with the Los Angeles Lakers and returns home. LeBron James returned to Cleveland 2.0. Everybody thought it was going to happen last year, draft Bronny James and get him home. It's actually probably going to happen this year because nobody's expecting it. Nobody's talking about it. It would kind of be a little bit out of left field. 40-year-old LeBron James returns home to Cleveland this June. That's my crystal ball for 2025.
I would absolutely love that. I've been holding on to that when I did my show with Matt Fontana. I would always say that LeBron's going to come home. It's a perfect storybook Hollywood ending. They'll make it work if they want to. We know how that thing goes. If LeBron wants to do something, he's going to find a way to do it. I think my crystal ball is already 1 for 1 because I did put LeBron in the graphic. I had a feeling someone was going to make that prediction. So I'm glad that my crystal ball is seeing things well. So if that's any indicator, we'll be seeing a whole movie trailer for Taylor Swift's live wedding with Cleveland's own Travis Kelce. All right. Well, that's
Parma, Ohio.
Yeah. Could you imagine in Parma, Ohio? Somebody we gotta find out where
BA Sweetie.
we gotta find out where Taylor Swift's from because I bet that's probably where they'll have their wedding. Tennessee.
I think it's Nashville, man. Or somewhere.
Yeah, she's from Nashville. She is from Nashville.
A whole Broadway show. I'm sure that'll happen. We'll see what it is. Anyways, happy. What's today? Tuesday. Taco Tuesday. I didn't say that in the beginning. Jack
Tuesday.
Appreciates you. Nick appreciates you. We'll be back same time tomorrow, 10 a.m. In the meantime, take it easy. No football today. It feels weird, guys.
I'm okay with no football for a while.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. All right, well, Jack's going to go cry in the corner. He's holding in the tears. Nick, thank you. Congratulations to your Ohio State Buckeyes. Congratulations to Ryan Day in the most because he deserves it. They had a hard-fought battle. They won it. Good for them. Sorry, Notre Dame. We'll be back tomorrow.
To the national championship next year. How about that
when they expand it to 64 teams. That should have been my crystal ball prediction right there. All right, we're going to end it on that. Take it easy. Thanks to Garage Beer. Thanks to Fairway Ford. We will see you tomorrow on The Big Factor. Peace.